up, guys? It's Lefty here. NBA season has officially tipped off. I'll be breaking down my opinion on each team, going through each division, discussing some future bets I have, division winners, regular season win totals. If you want those bets now, you can join the Discord community and find out what they are. I'm going to start with what I think is the toughest division, the Northwest division, top to bottom. It's the most competitive, and really there isn't just one bad team. Starting with the defending champs, I bet the Nuggets to win the championship prior to the start of last season at plus 1,800. It was posted in the Betting Network Discord community I run, so that was a nice score there. This is a team with probably the best player in the league and one of, if not the best starting fives in the NBA. But beyond their starting five, very young, very inexperienced. Best player on their bench is probably Christian Braun. They drafted a bunch of late first, early second rounders, Strother, Hunter Tyson, and Pickett. They lost Bruce Brown, who was versatile and could basically play any position. Depth is so important in the NBA, and it's even more important for a team like Denver because we're already seeing Michael Porter Jr. hurt, who has a horrible injury history. Jamal Murray has a history of injuries as well, but Joker can kind of make up for a lot of that on the short term. He's a star that doesn't take nights off, and Denver has the biggest home court advantage in the league, but there's no way around it. The Nuggets are going to have to play rookies a bunch of minutes, especially on the road on those back-to-backs. Really tough to get going early season after a championship run, and there's a big rest advantage to the rest of the league. But Denver's also that team I could see go on several 10-game win streaks. Denver isn't a team I'm looking to bet in the future markets, but the next team is the Oklahoma City Thunder, one of my favorite teams. And last season, the Thunder were my most profitable team on the NBA best bets that I post in the Betting Network Discord. I made more money betting on them than any other team, and it makes sense too. The Thunder have the best against the spread record of any team over the last two seasons. 95, 65, and 5 against the spread the last two seasons. Normally, the market kind of corrects itself when a team like OKC is just constantly cashing tickets for people who bet on them. Odds makers adjust, and I think we're starting to see OKC become a little overvalued. They're still a very young team. They have a coach I really like. They have a legit star and leader in SGA, solid role players. Love what I'm seeing from the kid Chet Holmgren in the preseason. He could potentially fill two really big voids and weaknesses for the Thunder, perimeter shooting and rim protection too. Thunder won 31 games 2 years ago. Now they're projected around 42 wins. It's a pretty big step up and a clear sign the market is catching up to them. We're not going to see them as underdogs this season nearly as much as last season. If you compare their regular season win totals for this season, they're right in line with some of the more experienced teams in the league, and not sure they have what it takes to compete on a nightly basis. Now, I do have a small bet on the Thunder to win the division. I bet them 2 weeks ago at plus 800. It's since moved a good amount. Like I said, Thunder, really solid group of role players. They rotate well and space the floor. And if Chet, is even half of what he's projected to be, this team will win the championship in 3 years. Only problem right now is the West is just so tough. Definitely, tougher than the East right now, and this team's still pretty young. Next team up, Utah Jazz. The Jazz are a team I have several awards bets on, which I'll discuss. The Jazz were the best against the spread team in the league last season, 47, 33, and 2. And they're almost a complete opposite of a team I'll talk about in a second with the T-Wolves. I don't love Utah's roster or talent, but their head coach, Will Hardy, gets the most out of what he has. Will Hardy, I like him for Coach of the Year at long shot odds of plus 4,000. The Jazz team, isn't expected to do much, and making the playoffs could be enough to get him Coach of the Year at plus 4,000 odds. I think it's worth a shot. It's a weird roster, but I think Hardy will make it work. The roster's filled with interchangeable parts at each position, which I'm not saying is a good thing. It's, they're all the same player, like Clarkson and Sexton, basically the same player. Chris Dunn, Horton Tucker, same exact player. A bunch of mid-range, same player types, which isn't optimal, but I do like this team. They'll give you effort defensively and have some guys that can fill it up. Another awards bet I'm looking for is Jordan Clarkson, six man. He's won it before, but not sure he will be an actual six man. I haven't seen him offered in that market yet, but I'm very interested to see how John Collins fits in this starting rotation. I always thought he was better than what he showed in Atlanta, but I think this Jazz team's success is going to rely a lot on rookie Keontae George. He was, I think, the 14th overall draft pick, or maybe 16th overall pick from Baylor. The Jazz are going to lean on him, from the get-go. They're not going to be bringing him along slowly. Now, the Jazz have a bona fide defensive stud in Walker Kessler, who I think is a top three rim protector in the league. He was third in the league in blocks with 173. And after him, the next closest player down the list had 33 fewer blocks at 140. I bet Kessler to win Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's underrated for the type of season he just had because he was a rookie and plays for a franchise in a time zone that doesn't get a lot of national attention. The market seems to like Kessler for Defensive Player of the Year, too, because he was at plus 4,000, but best price now I could find is recently plus 2,500. I have the Jazz as like a fringe playoff team, but they'll be good against the spread like last season because the Jazz have such a big home court edge. Not as big as Denver, but close. Denver and Utah have the two biggest home court edges in the league. Next up, the T-Wolves. I think Anthony Edwards is a little overhyped. This summer during the FIBA tournament, he was the best player on Team USA, and he struggled to make others better. Time and time again, we see super talented athletes think they can do it all alone. They spend their first 3 years of their career figuring out that they can't do it alone. He might have godly numbers on like a night-to-night basis, but you can't win like that. I'm still confused about the makeup of this T-Wolves roster, too. Gobert in Towns, that experiment, I don't know. I can't see it working. One of the team's biggest problems is like floor spacing. And I don't think Kyle Anderson will work on the floor with Gobert and Towns and Edwards when he can't even find shots for him. I do like the Shake Milton addition. Think he'll do a lot for this team that people aren't really recognizing. I like him at point much more than Conley, who is now 36 years old, doesn't give you anything on offense. Love Naz Reid. He's getting better every year, and he's only 24. T-Wolves will finally get a full year from Jaden McDaniels, which they didn't have last year, although he's already missed their first game. Next issue with this T-Wolves squad is their head coach, Chris Finch. He's just simply not good, and we see this type of defensive-minded coach around the league, coaching teams that would be great going high tempo and running the court and outscoring opponents, but instead the coach is stuck in the Stone Age with no offensive creativity. Sometimes the best defense is just scoring a lot of points. Last season, the T-Wolves were probably the toughest team for me to make numbers on. In other words, like I had a lot of trouble putting a power rating on them because at different points throughout the season, they were top 10 in pace, then they were bottom 10 in pace, top 10 defensively, then bottom 10 defensively. No clue what their identity was or is. Nothing worse than a team that has talent and ability, but the coach doesn't know how to use it. And just to be clear, I'm not even one of these like NBA fans that think they know more than the coaches, but some things are just so obvious and have been proven, but the coaches like go away from it for no reason. T-Wolves are just going to be a middle-of-the-road team, in my opinion, with high upside if they can figure out that Gobert-Cat situation. Now, the bottom team in this division, the Portland TrailBlazers. This is a team I love, but because I love them doesn't mean they're a good team to bet on or just a good team in general. This is a team that I'll probably fade on most nights. They play way too much ISO ball, and anytime your point guard is a negative plus-minus player, you're in trouble. And I like Scoot Henderson too, but he's just not the floor general type point guard that makes a team better. And the Blazers have volume shooters, but not really any ball distributors. The bigs down low are just black holes. They, get the ball and it never comes back out. Jeremy Grant, he's never averaged more than two. He's never averaged 2 assists per game, let alone more than 2. And Ayton just never passes. The bigger issue here with the Blazers is they have probably the worst coach in the league, in my opinion. I don't know anything that Chauncey Billups does well as a coach. No clue what his philosophy is. Not sure how he's even a coach. I really think the Blazers brought him in to be cool with Dame Lillard and be his friend, and now he's just a friend of all the players. He calls timeouts at the worst possible time. And it's one thing to have a bad coach, but it's another thing to have a bad coach in charge of a horribly constructed roster. Not sure why the Blazers didn't just load up on draft picks in that Dame trade. Instead, they got Rob Williams and Ayton together, which makes no sense. I don't expect much from this team and would bet their regular season win totals under, but that number's already too low. That's it for the Northwest Division. Stay tuned for the next divisional breakdowns. I'll have them posted in the Betting Network Discord community first if you want to join to get access to them, but I'll eventually post them on YouTube as well. If you could give this video a thumbs up, that'd be great. And if you aren't already subscribed, be sure to do so. I do NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball with a focus on kind of betting education. That's it for this one. Until next time, good luck with your bets.